Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored to be here with you today. I'll just talk about the overview of food safety and nutrition, because we've got this section or sector that we cover within the GSO. GSO is a regional intergovernmental organization. It's a non-profit. It's an IGO, founded in December 2001 and operated in May 2004. It has six member states, the 6 GCC, plus we've got Yemen as well with us on board. We are located in Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, the headquarters. So far we don't have branches yet. Inshallah, it will be coming up soon, inshallah, with the support of the political arm of GCC-SG, the General Secretariat, which I believe they've been invited, but I wonder if they are already here or not. We have around 70 staff, and what we do is, overall, we coordinate and we disseminate the information related to a variety of sectors within the GCC. I won't go into the details of GSO and how does it operate. I'll just straight away, because this is very specific, channeled food and agri event. So I just carry on and go to the food and GSO food standard. Next one, please. The objective of developing Gulf standards, increasing competitiveness, removing technical barrier to trade, consumer protection, unifying the technical concept, terminology, and all other related parameters. What we do in GSO, we build standards, technical regulation, codes, and other related guidelines based on health and safety and environment, of course, consumer protection, the trade, the requirements of industry, import and export, public procurement, of course, international trade. We meet the requirement of WTO, TBT, and SBS agreement, since we are a member and we've got an MOU. I didn't show the slides of how many of international MOUs that we've got, or international alliance or partnership, because it's really huge. It won't cover even one slide. But GSOs there in all the sectors you can think of other than food and agri. Of course, we do as well adopt international standards, and this is one of the primary, let's say, production line that we do at GSO. So we've got around 21 GSO standards so far. Out of this, you see 68% standards, which are voluntary, and 32% is technical regulation, which is a mandatory, or which is like what we can say it's a compulsory standards. And our major references here, of course, Codex comes as the primary reference, and then ISO, IEC, the European or the Sensenelic, which is the European standardization, the FDA, the OIA, and so on and so forth. And at the last block there, you see the SMIC, which is the Islamic International Islamic Council, which is, I think, headquartered in Saudi Arabia and Turkey. How do we actually contribute for food at the GCC level? There is a technical committee for food, including subcommittees and work groups. We've got membership in the GCC Committee for Food Safety, and this is the General Secretariat, which is the higher umbrella of all GCC entities. And you can name tens and 20s of GCC entities related to each and every sector within GCC. We participate in development of GCC Unified Food Law, and this is of course, very crucial and critical. We participate in work group for the rapid warning system for food, and this is a GCC General Secretariat level as well. We develop mechanism, application procedure, manual controls on imported food. We are a member with the GCC Tobacco Control, and this is another entity of the GCC, which is called the Gulf Health Council. And we are are a member with them. We sit with them on some of the technical committee meetings, and they do the same with us as well. We're a member of Nutrition and Micronutrient Committee. We do develop lots of training and seminars, and lots of the stakeholders knows about whatever we do because we do it in coordination with them. We have 15 main technical committee. As you see, the highlighted one, I don't know if this highlights, the TC5. This is the main food and agri, and we have the head of that technical committee sitting right away here, Engineer Jabal Al-Naimi from Qatar. And there it has 4 subcommittees, and we are in the reformation process and realignment process of all this food and agri. We have as well the TC15, halal products and services. Because of the halal sector, you know, it is an ever-growing business, and it is, we're talking about $1 trillion all across the globe. There are, if you want, I'll just give you a quick brief. You see all these chemical, textile products, mechanical products, electrical, and so on, renewable energy, and we are in the reformation process for the coming few years to reform all these and make it aligned with the best international practices. Okay, so what we have with food and agri, we have technical subcommittee for food label, the SC2 technical subcommittee for additive and food contaminants. 3 is for organic, functional, and genetically modified food. This is a bit in a hibernation mode nowadays, but it is going to revive, inshallah, within short time. And the final one is for tobacco, and this is now, we are, with the help of international experts and the G-Force as well, we have actually excluded this from being within this subcommittee, and it will be purely a full main committee. This is the structure. We have a GSO representative, which he liaises and coordinates all the actual operation of this technical committee. A secretary and president, also elected from the 6 countries, and the actual member from all the 6 countries plus Yemen. And of course, the stakeholders, because they are the driving force of each and every technical committee, and that we believe in, but yet we are in the actual building up this concept. Now, the GSO standards. Okay, so what does it have? Sorry. It has the food and agriculture products, supplementary standard food, hygienic requirement, expiration period, labeling, microbiological criteria, and all these stuff mentioned here, which is your domain of most of you here, I believe. How do we prepare and develop standard? It's actually based on the international practice of ISO and the European standardization, of course, and the ASTM. We have taken the best out of that, but mainly we're actually, let's say, taking consideration of the ISO international standard, because it's the actual mother, or the big mother of all international standards. So we have a very unique online system facilitating this process, and very interactive and very dynamic. Now, one of the new things that been actually lately, last year, July, been, let's say, approved by the Ministerial Committee of the GCC, Trade and Industry, the stakeholder engagement or involvement. And this is something new to this region, of course. We know that from the international standard, you know, the ISO, the ASTM, the ICC, you name it, any international or regional or sub-regional organization related to standardization, their driving power is the actual stakeholders, the industry sitting to be a secretary or a chair. And this let's say, notion and concept. It's now coming here, and we have already the green light to start doing it, of course, slowly, because we don't want to rush it. And this will give a very strong enforcement and emphasis on the role of industry. So whatever, because I do believe myself that, you know, I mean, most of the countries, let's say within this region, I don't want to talk globally. Now, let's say the rate or the acceleration rate of industry, because I've worked in industry, maybe if I may just give it a number, at least 20 up to 100 times faster than whatever happened in the government, because of the nature of each, like, let's say, entity. The industry, it is more free, and it is directly dealing with the matter that it is really producing, while government sector, no, it is a bit slower. So this is the rate. I mean, I didn't see actually any data in the world or publication talking about what is the differences between the private sector and the industry sector. And if there is let's say, an index, there could be, but maybe I'm not aware of, or that some of the people here might be aware of. But this is very key element in actually matching and putting the emphasis on stakeholder, because the ISO, for example, the ISO, the IEC, the Europeans, and the American ASTM, ANSI, they actually, their drivers is the stakeholders, is the industry, who sit and lead the committee. So this is what we are aiming at as well, hopefully coming in the coming few years. The NSB, which is the national standardization body of each country, the regulatory and legislative body, the markets, the business sector, and the consumer. And of course, you see the industry sector and the university and research center. One of the new things in Europe, although this is an American event, but you don't mind talking about Europe, because we've got a so closer proximity with them because of the distance and the global geography. They have developed a methodology called the Bridget, which they actually develop standards on a consortium between the three main players. And I think this is well pronounced in the US, but in a different pattern. They bring the university and academic research, the cutting edge research, and the standard developing organization, the standardization body like GSO or NSBs within the countries, plus the actual industry who really own that sector of line, which is food. It could be food and agri, chemical, petrochemical, renewable energy, and so on and so forth. Now, the involvement of stakeholder, and this is, of course, this is the plan. We already started doing that. We'll be, I think, arranging, my colleague here, Abdullah Al-Hadlag, he's the section head of technical committee. He'll be happy to answer any questions you have later on. We've got I think coming next month, it's a series of workshops introducing the actual stakeholder manual that's already been approved. And now we are starting the implementation of that stakeholder manual. So they can propose draft, they can contribute for the study, they can, and I mean the aim is they start leading or being a secretary of that technical committee or the chair eventually. Now, talking about back to the focus of this event, talking about the TC5 and what they have, and of course any technicality you can refer back to Mr. Jabr Naimi here. He's the head of that TC, and he can answer in more technical details. So we've got lots of food and agri-related topics. Like, for example, this is the plan. Every year we start a plan for the whole year. So this is for 2022 plan. And the plan, again, it's getting richer and richer when you progress along the months of the year. So, for example, you have the brown line here, the GSO 2333-2013 requirement for nutrition and health claim in the food. And this is now under revision or under update and so on. For example, the other, I'm just giving another example. The Gso 239, 2014 food and for special dietary uses, general requirement for athlete food. And this is backing whatever Dr. Souza was saying here about the regional awareness of the people and getting more healthy and aware about their health and diet and physique. Now, as an overall here, what we see is more than 111 standard projects for the 2022, new standard, update, adoption, translation, and so on. And this would include more than 30% reference from the Codex standards. Of course, Codex is the big mama of all food and agriculture, WHO and the FAO. That's what we're talking about. Okay, so now the TBT, and because since GSO is a member of it, we've got an MOU with TBT, so we do a unification of notification between the 6 GCC countries. Why we're doing that? Because to reduce time and effort needed by member state in notification process, and this is of course related to technical regulation. A single notification instead of 6 notification identical, and this is been really worked hard in the last 7 or 8 years to make that agreement with the WTO, and this will avoid unnecessary duplication of work, expedite the process, and it's easier to follow up that notification. So any country, UAE for example, can do the notification. It will be on behalf of all the 6 countries, Qatar, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and so on. And this is just a sample of that, or a specimen to show that. I don't know if you see well so this is United Arab Kingdom, I think, SBC. I can't read it well, sorry, my vision is a bit bad, so yeah, it can't show that this has been issued by one of the countries and on behalf of all the other countries. I'll just refer to now this is an UAE one, and this is a Saudi one. And of course they are the big players in this region. Everybody knows that. Now we are at a functional risk here on a regional regulatory scale, because we manage all this food and agri sector. And I believe as far as the latest statistics being issued on a global scale, the food and agri sector, among all other industries, is the largest in the world. What are we talking about? Because it's directly impacting the human. So we have other regional industrial sector, as you have seen in our technical committee, electrical, mechanical, chemical, energy, construction, etc. So whatever we do, I'm just sharing this with you, since we don't have a kind of small entity or a unit or a center to run the regional activity of the food and agricultural sector, so there will become kind of a defocus of efforts here and let's say, misalignment. So what we were actually working with the Arab Codex initiative to develop some kind of support to make this happen within this region. Like, for example, the USDA, they run the whole food and agri activities within Saudi Arabia, same in Kuwait, same in UAE, same in Oman, and we've got the people presented here. So these are on a national scale, and we are a region here. So we need to run or overlook all these and regulate all these activities and consolidate them together. So we need kind of center to run for food and agri, to run all these functions related to food and agriculture. So we have allied with the Arab Codex initiative. Prof. Samuel is here, and we've been working throughout let's say the last 18 months together to make things happen. So towards the GCC Center for Food and Agriculture Standard, and this is what we are under the auspices of Arab Codex initiative funded by the US Codex Office. GSO and G-Force are developing an ongoing collaborative effort aiming at establishing a GCC Center for Food and Agri Standards. And this, of course, would coordinate approach and a presentation and contribution of the national food standard setting. It will be a state-of-the-art approach for food and agri standards, developing a line with Codex standards, capacity building and training, and it's a data and intelligence hub, since we've got a very good IT infrastructure within GSO. And so this works again with the Arab Codex, and we will be the sub-regional of the Arab Codex headed by the EDMO, or the ETSIMO, as they call them now, which is located in Morocco. So, with Prof. Samuel visiting us and having so many meetings, it started all in Dubai here, then it moved to Saudi Arabia, and all the GCC people are aware about it, the GCC standardization bodies. So, what is the aim here? Enable increased capacity, contribution to Codex proceedings, Codex contact point in GCC, food standard team, bring performance according to international practices, position GSO standard for robustness and credibility, and leverage the collaboration and initiatives. Now, okay, before I go there, that's the last slide, and it is a puzzle one for everyone here, including myself. Before going there, now, I want to talk about the Codex. I believe everybody knows that we have, let's say, elite mind here. People working in the food and agri, and they are scientists, deep scientists, being across the world, working in collaboration with the US, with Europe, Singapore, Japan, South Korea, Australia, and so on. Now, to get the butter of these beautiful minds, let's say, how can this region contribute to the Codex? Now, United States, it's the first economy in the world. Europe is there, the EU, then the rest of the world as well. They have their ranking within the world, on the world scale. But how about this region? What do we do actually? What is our contribution towards the Codex? Because the Codex is the main, let's say, body for all the food and agri-related standards, technical regulation, codes, etc., etc. So that's the aim here. We want to create a hub here for these minds working in this field and translate that into a contribution, an effective contribution towards the Codex. And the Codex, it's a big body with a big, let's say, technicalities are involved here. It's really an intricate of technicality. So how can we slowly start playing our role? And this is the aim of that, what I call it, initiative. And hopefully we're looking forward for the support to make it happen. Now, to end up, I've received freshly from a source within this region, not need to mention the country, an alarming, if I may say, alarming status of the food and agriculture, the insecurity of food. And this is what I want to share with you here. And this is from a source in the what do you call it, World Economic Forum in Switzerland. And where do chief economists expect high inflation and high food insecurity? And this shows, okay, of course, on top of all is the US, 96% as expected high inflation, 0% expected food insecurity. If you see Europe, it's 92% versus 8%. The Middle East and North Africa, this includes the GCC, at 75% and 79%. So I'll leave it to you to think it over, because I'm still thinking it over, and still, what is happening in the world, we will share it together and we'll work together, of course, to overcome all these things. Now, the conclusion: standards and technical regulation for food among most important gov standards applicable to food. And we have the ambition of taking the regional role as for Arab Initiative, of course. And this is even aligned within our, the SDG, the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN, which is built in our GSO mandates. And of course, to highlight that, the stakeholders, we rely on you and we're welcoming you on board, but just give us time to really start accommodating and making this system really mature and up to the level required. And finally, creating a regional hub for science-based studies. That's, I think, that's what really add value regionally and globally. Thank you very much.